The night was electric, the arena lights blazing bright and the crowd buzzing with energy. But this was no Hollywood premiere. This was Toronto, Canada, where thousands of fans had gathered for a special charity boxing showcase. On the posters, outside, one name shined brighter than the rest, a 19-year-old Canadian boxing phenom named Liam Hunter. He was undefeated in the youth division, fast with his fists, sharp with his words, and already famous for his fiery attitude. As Liam entered the ring during the opening ceremony, he grabbed the microphone with a cocky grin. "This is Canada's new era," he shouted. "No fake fighters, no movie stars pretending to be tough guys. I'm real, I'm the future, and I could knock down anyone, even Keanu Reeves." The arena gasped. Everyone knew Keanu was sitting in the front row as a guest of honor, invited because of his support for Canadian charities and his deep roots in Toronto. Liam's words cut through the noise like fire, and cameras immediately turned toward Keanu. Keanu sat still, his hair falling across his shoulders, dressed simply in black. He didn't flinch, didn't smirk, didn't fire back. His calm silence made the challenge echo even louder. People in the crowd murmured. Some laughed nervously, others booed Liam for disrespect. But many cheered, excited to see drama unfold. The announcer tried to move on, but the tension hung heavy like thunder waiting to break. Backstage later, reporters swarmed Keanu. "What do you say to Liam Hunter calling you out?" one shouted. Another added, "Are you afraid to step in the ring?" Microphones pointed at his face, but Keanu's reply was soft and steady. "Liam is young. He has great talent. But respect matters more than talent. Words can lift or they can wound. I am not here to fight him. I am here to support the veterans and children this event is meant for." The reporters weren't satisfied. "So you're refusing his challenge?" Keanu looked at them with eyes that carried years of pain, loss, and resilience. "I refuse to fight for pride, but I will always stand for kindness." The answer spread like wildfire online. Some praised him, calling it true wisdom. Others mocked him, saying he was hiding behind words. Memes filled social media. Liam the Lion versus Keanu the Cowboy. The story was everywhere by morning. What Keanu didn't know was that Liam's words came from more than arrogance. The boy carried his own storm, an absent father, pressure from trainers, and the crushing weight of being called the future of Canadian boxing. For Liam, mocking Keanu wasn't just a joke. It was a way to prove himself to a world that demanded he be stronger every day. Days later, the organizers called Keanu. "Liam has officially challenged you to an exhibition charity match. It's not about titles, it's about raising money. But everyone wants to see if you'll accept." Keanu sat quietly with the phone in his hand. He had no reason to step into a ring. He wasn't a boxer. He wasn't a fighter chasing glory. But he thought of Liam, young and burning with pride, and of the thousands who would watch. This wasn't about winning or losing. This was about showing what strength really meant. That night, Keanu walked into his kitchen, brewed a simple cup of tea, and whispered to himself, "Maybe it's time to step into the ring, not to fight him, but to teach him." The decision was made. The news broke like a lightning strike. Keanu Reeves accepts boxing challenge from Canadian phenom Liam Hunter. Headlines flashed across every sports channel and entertainment site. Fans couldn't believe it. Memes turned into debates. Was Keanu brave, foolish, or just playing along for charity? Liam stood at a press conference with his trainers, smirking as cameras clicked. "I respect him as an actor," he said with a mocking grin. "But this isn't a movie. He'll learn quickly that real fighters bleed." The crowd laughed. Reporters scribbled, and the story gained even more fire. Across town, Keanu sat quietly in a small gym away from flashing cameras. He wore no fancy gear, just plain sweats, his long hair tied back loosely. He trained with an old boxing coach, a man who had worked with veterans and street kids more than with champions. "You don't have to outpunch him," the coach told Keanu. "You just have to show up with heart. The world already doubts you. Don't prove them wrong with fists. Prove them wrong with who you are." Keanu nodded, breathing deeply, his gloves resting against the worn-out heavy bag. "I don't want to hurt him," he whispered. "I want him to understand that respect matters more than power." The coach smiled faintly. Then every punch you throw must carry that message. While Keanu trained in silence, Liam prepared differently. His gym was crowded with reporters, his training filmed and shared across social media. He hit the bag with furious speed, shouting between strikes, "This is what real fighting looks like. Keanu can't handle this." Young fans cheered him on while older voices shook their heads, worried that pride was leading the boy down a dangerous path. As the fight drew closer, whispers spread about Liam's private life. Some said his father had abandoned him, that boxing was his only way to prove himself. Others said he carried anger from years of being told he wasn't good enough. Beneath the arrogance was a boy carrying wounds no one could see. Keanu learned of this through a quiet conversation with one of Liam's old neighbors. "He's not a bad kid," the neighbor said softly. "He's just hurting. Every time he throws a punch, he's fighting someone who isn't there." Those words sat heavy in Keanu's heart. He saw himself in Liam, not as a boxer, but as a soul searching for meaning through pain. The night of the weigh-in arrived. Hundreds filled the hall as the two men stepped onto the stage. Liam puffed out his chest, flexed his muscles, and pointed at Keanu with a grin. "He doesn't belong. Here, I'll end this fast." Keanu simply smiled, bowed his head slightly, and said, "I belong wherever kindness is needed." The crowd erupted, some laughing, some cheering, some confused. But the cameras loved it. The contrast between the fiery young boxer and the calm, humble actor was too perfect. As they stood face to face for the traditional stare-down, Liam's eyes burned with challenge while Keanu's eyes held something gentler, almost like a father looking at a son. And for a brief second, the young fighter faltered. Deep down, something in Keanu's gaze unsettled him. It wasn't fear. It wasn't weakness. It was something Liam didn't yet understand. Peace. The night of the fight arrived, and Toronto buzzed like never before. The arena glowed under the lights, the streets outside packed with fans holding signs, shouting chants, and waving Canadian flags. Television trucks lined the curbs, and reporters filled every corner, eager to capture the spectacle. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation, the sound of drums and chants shaking the seats. When Liam entered first, the crowd erupted. The young boxer walked with fire in his step, draped in a Canadian flag, his gloves flashing under the lights. His fans screamed his name, chanting, "Hunter, Hunter, Hunter!" His grin stretched wide as he shadow-boxed, his energy filling the ring. Then came Keanu. He entered quietly, wearing no robe, no flashy outfit, just a plain black shirt and gloves. His steps were calm, his expression steady, his presence simple. But the moment he appeared, the arena roared with a sound different from Liam's. It wasn't wild chanting, it was respect. Fans rose to their feet clapping, some even with tears in their eyes, because they knew they weren't just watching an actor. They were watching a man who had come to stand for something more. The referee brought them to the center. Liam leaned in close, his voice sharp. "You don't belong here, old man. I'll make this quick." Keanu looked at him with calm eyes and whispered, "Then let this be quick, but let it mean something." The bell rang. Liam charged forward, fists flying fast like bullets. His speed was undeniable, his strikes landing against Keanu's guard, the sound echoing across the arena. The crowd screamed with every blow. Keanu stepped back, blocked, absorbed, never panicking. He didn't throw wild punches, didn't try to match the boy's fury. He simply stood steady, his body moving with quiet discipline. But in the first round, Liam's right hook landed clean across Keanu's cheek. The actor stumbled back into the ropes. Gasps erupted. Reporters leaned forward, ready to declare him finished. But then something happened. Keanu straightened, slowly, calmly. He walked back to the center, nodded at Liam, and whispered, "Good strike." The crowd froze. It wasn't anger. It wasn't arrogance. It was respect. Liam's grin faltered for a split second, confusion flickering across his face. He had expected fear, maybe panic, but instead he saw calmness, kindness, and something else: acceptance. The second round began, and again Liam attacked, his fists fierce and unrelenting. Keanu absorbed the blows, moving with surprising balance for a man who wasn't a professional fighter. Every time he was hit, he rose. Every time he stumbled, he steadied himself. The crowd began to chant his name, not because he was winning, but because he refused to fall. By the third round, Liam's fury grew desperate. His strikes were wild now, his breathing heavy, sweat dripping down his face. And then, in the middle of the round, Keanu did something unexpected. Instead of striking back, he lowered his fists, stepped back, and bowed deeply to Liam. The arena went silent. Liam froze, his gloves hanging midair, unsure what to do. The cameras zoomed in on Keanu's bruised face, bent in humility, his voice, barely audible but carried across the microphones. "Thank you for reminding me of strength. Now let me remind you of respect." The crowd erupted in cheers, thunder shaking the walls. People weren't watching a fight anymore. They were witnessing a lesson. Liam stood frozen, his chest heaving, his pride battling with something deeper inside him. He had come to crush a man, but instead he was being shown a truth he didn't understand yet. And for the first time in his career, the young Phenom hesitated. The fourth round began with tension heavier than before. Liam bounced on his feet, fists raised, but his eyes were different now. The fire of arrogance had dimmed, replaced by a flicker of doubt. Keanu stood calmly across the ring, bruised but steady, his chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. The bell rang, and Liam rushed again, his fists striking fast, the sound echoing through the arena. Keanu blocked, absorbed, and when he stumbled, he rose again without anger. Every time Liam landed a blow, Keanu's eyes seemed to say, "I see you. I understand you." It was not the reaction of an enemy. It was the gaze of someone who cared. The crowd noticed the shift. Chants changed from mocking laughter to roaring applause for Keanu's resilience. Fans who had come expecting a quick humiliation now leaned forward, captivated. They were watching not just a fight, but a lesson about dignity under fire. Halfway through the round, Liam landed a heavy body shot that forced Keanu back. The crowd gasped. Liam should have celebrated, but instead he froze. Keanu looked up at him, sweat dripping, bruises marking his face, and whispered, "You are strong, but strength without respect becomes a cage." The words pierced deeper than any punch. Liam's hands trembled for a split second. His chest heaved, and suddenly, memories he had buried broke through. His father leaving home when he was young, the nights he cried himself to sleep, the pressure from trainers yelling that he had to be perfect, the endless voice in his head, screaming he wasn't enough. For the first time in the ring, Liam blinked back tears. He threw another punch, but it lacked fire. Keanu blocked easily, then gently touched Liam's glove and said softly, "You don't need to prove anything. You already matter." The arena, unaware of the storm inside Liam, roared louder and louder. Some chanted his name, others shouted, "For Keanu." But in that moment, the young fighter heard nothing except those words. The round ended, and Liam walked back to his corner slower than before. His trainers yelled at him, demanding more aggression, more power. But his mind was far away, replaying Keanu's calm voice again and again. Keanu sat quietly in his corner, sipping water, his eyes never leaving the boy. He didn't see an opponent. He saw a young man drowning in pain, using fists to scream what his heart could not say. The fifth round was coming. The world expected chaos. But something else was about to unfold, something no one had seen coming. The fifth round began, but it was unlike any that came before. Liam stepped forward slower this time, his fists raised, but the sharpness of his strikes was gone. His body moved with power. Yes, but his heart was elsewhere. Keanu, standing across the ring, felt it immediately. The bell rang and Liam threw a quick jab, but his eyes betrayed him. There was no pride in them, only confusion, only pain he could no longer hide. Keanu blocked, then stepped closer instead of striking back. The crowd shouted wildly, confused by the calm pace. Some demanded blood, others chanted for Keanu, but the two men in the ring heard nothing except the sound of their own breaths. Liam swung again, harder, desperate to shake off the emotions building inside him. His glove connected with Keanu's jaw, snapping his head back. The crowd roared, but then something shocking happened. Instead of stepping back, Keanu stayed close and whispered, "You are not fighting me. You are fighting yourself." The words hit harder than any punch. Liam froze, his fists trembling mid-air. Suddenly, his chest tightened, and the years of anger spilled out. He shouted, not at Keanu, but at everything that had haunted him. "You don't understand. I have to be the best. I have to win. If I'm not strong, I'm nothing." His voice cracked, echoing through the arena as the crowd fell into stunned silence. Keanu didn't strike. He simply lowered his gloves, looked Liam in the eyes, and said, "You are not nothing. You are human. And that is enough." Liam's arms dropped, his body shaking, the fight leaving him completely. For the first time, the young Phenom stood vulnerable in front of thousands, tears blurring his vision. The referee hesitated, unsure what to do. The crowd was dead silent, waiting. Then Liam, his chest heaving, turned his back for a moment, trying to hide his face. But Keanu stepped forward, placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, and gently turned him back toward the crowd. "Stand tall," Keanu whispered. "Let them see the real you." And in that instant, the arena erupted, not in jeers or mocking laughter, but in applause, loud and endless. They weren't cheering for a knockout. They were cheering for courage, for honesty, for the rare moment when a fighter showed his soul. Liam covered his face with his gloves, overwhelmed, but Keanu lifted the boy's arm high in the air. The message was clear. This was not about winning or losing. It was about finding truth. The bell rang to end the round, but no one cared anymore. The fight had already transformed into something greater, something unforgettable. The sixth and final round began under a silence unlike anything the arena had felt before. Thousands of fans sat on the edge of their seats, not shouting, not chanting, but waiting with hearts in their throats. The fight was no longer about boxing. It was about the boy who had been crowned a prodigy, the actor who had been mocked as a cowboy, and the truth that had been uncovered between them. The bell rang. Liam stepped forward slowly, his fists raised but his eyes softer now, heavy with something new. Respect. Keanu raised his gloves as well, but his stance was calm, his movement steady. They circled one another, not with rage but with understanding. When Liam threw the first jab, it was measured, controlled, not wild. Keanu blocked, then answered with a gentle tap of his glove, a reminder that he was here not as an enemy but as a guide. The crowd watched in awe as the two men exchanged strikes that carried no arrogance, only discipline and respect. Midway through the round, Liam paused, breathing heavily. Sweat poured down his face, his chest rising and falling like a storm beginning to calm. He looked at Keanu and said softly, so only the microphones close by could catch it, "Thank you for not breaking me when you could." Keanu smiled faintly, his bruised face glowing with quiet pride. "The world tried to break me too. But I learned we don't win by breaking others. We win by lifting them." The words reached the crowd through the speakers, and a wave of emotion swept the arena. Some people cried. Others clapped their hands raw. It wasn't about who would raise the trophy. It was about the moment of truth unfolding before their eyes. As the seconds ticked down, Liam's fists dropped. He looked at Keanu, bowed deeply, and whispered, "You are the fighter I want to become." Keanu, in front of the world, returned the bow. Then, instead of striking, he extended his arm and pulled Liam into an embrace. The crowd erupted, their cheers shaking the rafters. The referee, overwhelmed, simply let the bell ring to close the match. No one declared a winner that night. There was no knockout, no judge's decision. But when the announcer stepped into the ring and raised both men's arms, the crowd roared, louder than if there had been a champion. They had witnessed something far greater than victory. They had witnessed respect, humility, and resilience. After the match, Liam stood with the microphone, his voice trembling. "I thought fighting was about proving I was stronger than everyone. But tonight, Keanu taught me that real strength is kindness. Real strength is respect. I will never forget this. The young boxer's words shook the world. Headlines didn't call him arrogant anymore. They called him transformed. And the image of Keanu lifting Liam's hand high became one of the most shared moments on social media, a symbol of humility and courage. In the weeks that followed, Liam trained differently, harder, but with more discipline, with more heart. And whenever people asked what changed him, he would say, "One man in the ring showed me that dignity can hit harder than fists." As for Keanu, he returned to his quiet life, avoiding the spotlight, smiling softly when people asked about the match. "It wasn't a fight," he would say. "It was a lesson, for both of us." And so, in a world that often demanded blood and spectacle, Keanu Reeves reminded everyone that the greatest victories are not found in defeating others, but in helping them rise.